I don't know that there's ever been in Dauphin County a case like this, where 6 people died. That's the car that the 5 people were in. It was just demolished. The driver survived. The only people who survived this wreck were the 2 drivers. He was drinking and was driving too fast and lost control of the car and went into an oncoming car. My understanding is that the people in the red car were on their way to go to the movies. I mean, there were kids in that car.
And I remember getting on scene, and I remember getting out of the ambulance, and it was very quiet. It was very quiet for a minute, and then there was just chaos. There was just chaos. And the patients in the red vehicle were almost like an accordion. They were very tightly together, and I remember seeing the one individual that I declared that he was deceased was a small child that was in between two other individuals. It was a lot of our first time seeing something of that caliber. When you have a group and the family's there and the family has blood on them and they're screaming and hollering and you need to move on to the next person to see if they are alive or deceased, and you have to tell them there's nothing I can do for your child, let alone whether it's a mother, father, or whether it's a friend. But when you're telling a mother or a father that there's nothing I can do for your child and your child's dead and I need to move on. There are certain incidences that happen in this business that you will never forget,
And there was just people everywhere. I mean, there was just stuff, mementos, people were putting all over the place. And I just couldn't believe it anymore. I still couldn't believe it. I didn't know. I didn't really talk to anybody, say, yeah, your son's dead. All I know is all these people are there telling me my son's dead. It was horrible. And I don't remember anything after that. I remember sitting on my front porch and I just put my head down and I cried and I cried. I remember the funeral and that's it. I don't remember anything thereafter. I don't remember in between.
I remember Shane's mom, Diane, calling me, and she said there was an accident, and I said, what do you mean? I'm not. What's going on? And she started screaming, and she said she's dead, and I said no. And I threw the phone. But I remember just getting on the ground and just punching and saying no. It feels like yesterday, that phone call, you can hear it in your head. Awful. It's the most awful thing you could ever imagine. But it's there, it will never go away. Them images, it's there. You can hear it. It never goes away.
I didn't feel comfortable riding with Boyd, and I didn't ride on purpose. And I told Harry, it's not worth it, it's not. But I also knew my friend, and I knew Harry, and Boyd was driving that Mustang. I know my friend. He liked speed, he was drinking a little. And when I heard those sirens, I was scared to death.
So we took a ride down to where they had the road blocked off, and they wouldn't really tell us what kind of cars were in there. We knew what kind of car he was in, so we were asking questions and they wouldn't tell us, and I just had to break it down for the guy, I need to know, this is my brother, I have to figure this out. He's missing, this is where he would have been coming through. And all they could tell us was to go to the morgue.
So we get there, and it's like a cafeteria almost. We sat down at a table, and Mikey's dad had showed up. And Mikey and his dad went one way, and they asked me to come back into the other room. So I went back into another room, and I still was not sure what was going on. I just knew that they had Harry Lyter back there. That's all I knew. So I went back there, and it was a big mirror almost. And I was standing with one woman, and she just looked at me and she put her hand on like my side and she said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Sure." And she hit a light switch, and that's when the mirror turned to a window, and there he laid. He still had blood and glass in his hair, and he was wearing my shoes. I remember I had my shoes on, they were untied. And of course that was after they asked me, "Is that Harry Lyter?" And I said, "Yes, it's Harry Lyter." And that was it. I heard Mikey scream like I've never heard another man scream. And I knew what he was screaming about instantly. That day and night has haunted me for a decade at least. It changed me. It really changed me.
I went back home after that, and I just stayed in my room, and I just cried and couldn't cry because I cried so much already, and it just hurt, hurt horribly.
Families of the victims were distraught, angry, hurt. In one fell swoop, there were 6 lives extinguished, and 4 of them were in one family. But I can see him sitting in my office as plain as day, and I can remember the day they took him off to jail as plain as day, and it was just horrible. The family was in the courtroom, and the victims' families, and clearly what he got they felt was not enough, and they were speaking out, and it was just poor. And Boyd was just a mess. Families of the victims were not happy with me. Mostly, how can you represent him? How can you live with yourself? They shouted a number of times when we were leaving court or hearings. I mean, that doesn't affect me. He's a person. He's entitled to a defense. He's entitled to an attorney. He's done wrong, but he still has rights. And in his case, from my point of view, there was still an awful lot of mitigation.
I would like to know if he fully understands what he took that night. Sometimes I wonder, does he even know that? You killed people, but do you really know what you did? You took an 8-year-old, but you took a 2-year-old's mother. Does he think of stuff like that? Or are you only thinking about the lives you took?